What up, Salvador Briggman here. Hope you've been having a killer week thus far and you've been executing religiously towards your goals. You've been showing up, you've been working hard, you've been pushing through those pain barriers in order to make steps towards that ultimate result which you are craving. And when it comes to this podcast, a lot of our focus is on crowdfunding. We get really into the root of what you got to do to raise capital from the crowd when it comes to equity crowdfunding. We talk about how to launch a campaign on Kickstarter or Indiegogo and get thousands and thousands of backers around the world, no matter where you are, no matter what your education level is, no matter your age or even the demographic that you're in. We got a show out there for you. I've been bringing these episodes, these case studies to you since 2015. Go back into the archives of this show and discover the treasure trove when it comes to the techniques, the tactics, and the strategy that works to get you funding. So today's episode, we actually spoke with an entrepreneur and an individual who's raised over $700,000 with an equity crowdfunding campaign that has a multi-million-dollar business in terms of sales that he's generating, and is a multi-time entrepreneur as well, has launched successful campaigns in multiple successful companies in multiple verticals. And you're going to hear from him on the show when it comes to what he believes is the recipe to his success that you can follow, and sort of the formula, if you will, behind launching one of these successful campaigns. So you're going to hear about all that today, but it did spark a thought before we get into today's podcast, which is that back in the day, when I was in college, there were so many different things that I was interested in. When I first entered school, I thought I was going to go maybe into computer programming or maybe even some writing, because I love writing. Obviously, I've written 10 plus books out there. And I thought I might even go into psychology. At one point, I thought I might be a doctor or something like that. And it was only really once I came to understand that you don't necessarily have to choose your individual skill, that it was like a light bulb moment that went off in my head. Now, what do you mean by that? What I mean by that is that when you are starting a business, when you're growing a company, when you're, investing in a brand, which is going to touch thousands and thousands of lives nationwide, worldwide, you don't have to just be good at one thing. What you need really is to understand how to build a team. And when I had that realization that what I'm excited about, what I'm passionate about, is I'm passionate about business. I'm passionate about adding value to the world. I'm passionate about doing really great stuff, having incredible podcasts, YouTube videos, products, books out there for you to consume to move you forward with your education and your training. When I realized that, it was like one of the most empowering moments of my life. Because sometimes you look at other people, you don't want to be a doctor, you don't want to be an accountant. What you want is something, an even bigger vision than anything that anyone else is telling you is possible. So listen to today's podcast episode and you will learn a ton when it comes to how to actually raise capital from the crowd, how to actually get funding when it comes to an equity crowdfunding campaign, how to build a tribe, and also some of the habits that go into a successful entrepreneur and a successful founder. Even if you don't necessarily identify as an entrepreneur, that word is thrown around so much that I've really grown to not even like it very much. But that being said, for those of you out there that are just kind of starting to sample this and you really want to get access to the cutting edge, by the cutting edge, I mean what is working right now to drive traffic, get funding, to bring new products into the world, the platforms you might not know about, the resources and tools you might have never even heard of. You can join my insiders community, which I call Killer Crowdfunding Tips. You can join this. All you got to do is go to the link I'm about to mention. You can enter your name and email, and you can join my insider collective, my insider community, where I'm sharing this every single week, the things that I'm discovering, the tools, all the strategy that's working right now to drive funding. Go to check this out at crowdcrux.com/newsletter. That link is crowdcrux.com/newsletter. Again, that link is crowdcrux.com/newsletter, and I'll start sending you my killer crowdfunding tips. All right, guys, let's get into today's podcast episode, and it's coming up right after this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Today we're speaking with a creator who's been able to track over 700,000 with a WeFunder campaign for iconic electric motorcycles. And we are lucky enough to have that individual here today on the podcast. Super excited to welcome Matt Chambers. Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely, man. Maybe you can fill in some gaps in that intro and tell listeners just a tiny bit more about your company and also about you.
Well, our company is probably like a lot of the companies that are out there raising money from the crowd. I mean, we're just a passion play. We love motorcycles, and we've always dreamed of creating a luxury motoring experience on two wheels. And we worked for 25 years on ICE, made some interesting bikes, or bikes that we feel are interesting, and we did have some traction with some of the world's most accomplished people and as customers. And 7 years ago, Salvador, we got caught up in this electric idea. I as the kind of leader, founder of our unique culture, I have this thing in my mind that kind of an anti-great man theory. I love Ayn Rand, and her fixation was that one man or one woman will create all these wonderful innovations that make life so much better as an entrepreneur. But my feeling is it's really about it's not groupthink at all. It's the opposite of that. But it's like people coming together around joined passion, a romance for, like in a crowd. What happens is people come in because they look at it and they say, "Oh my God, I love this! I love this thing. I want to make it happen." And once you have this synchronized energy, then the ideas marry, and better ideas and better ideas. It's like an evolution of thought, and then you end up with better thinking. Well, this is what happened. It converted us to electrification, and it wasn't really because of clean or anything. Even it was just because the light bulb went off. It's like, hey man, this is the key to the better
way. Yeah.
Kind of this ultimate rolling. Like how do I get Salvador to roll in the most beautiful way? Well, he's going to be on two wheels, but now with the Curtis, the electric Curtis, is so much better than the other ones, but it is like a 180-degree different way.
So for you, is your passion, does your love come from the technology, and that, is it the eco-friendly aspect? Is it the design? What do you really love? What are you passionate about?
It's just the rolling, man. I just want to, I've had so many eventful ideas, and the rolling on two wheels from when I was a small child. I mean, like when I first got to ride motorcycles, I was 13. I mean, and a lot of motorcycle people are like that. They're like, damn, I got to ride. I love it. And, most of my riding, for instance, Salvador, has been in New Orleans. So riding around old New Orleans, Marigny, the Bywater, French Quarter, just putting around on this super interesting Curtis. It's the way it makes you, in this case, myself, but feel, the feeling. And then what those feelings mean, really maybe just helping to identify, like Oscar Wilde said, be yourself, everyone else is taken. It's very hard in a world as that's trying to make you anybody else. So
very cool. I mean, I love that, and I think that you're right in that it's such a great experience. What were you doing before you started this company? Before you really got involved in motorcycles and this kind of technology? What were you doing before that?
Well, like the crowdfunding folk. I mean, I'm just a small B guy, the thing I love so much about crowdfunding is I think it links into, there's this whole thing. I'm not sure if it's accurate, but supposedly Gandhi was asked, what do you think about capitalism? He said, "Oh, I think it's interesting. We should try it." So I've never really believed that we have ever actually tried open market for free enterprise, totally open. So nothing opens it up like what you're working on, what your podcast is here to facilitate, which is this crowdfund idea. So yeah. So I mean, in terms of your work or your background, so are you a designer, or would you say you're more on the business side, or what's kind of your background? I think I'm just a guy trying to figure it out, trying to get to the truth like everybody else, and using my I'm definitely what you would call a maker, and I love ideas. I follow my tendency is to always be grounded by what I love, and believing that what I love is going to ultimately be what I'm good at. So if I love motorcycles so much that it would be organic, that I would be able to accumulate a lot of data. I would be able to think in a very clarified and illuminated way when it comes to the motorcycle. So if I'm reading stuff that's relevant to that, then it tends to jump down my throat, if you will. I mean, it's like a great wine that you take a sip and it's like, oh, this is good. So,
so what I understand, you created some of the world's most iconic novel V-twin designs over the last 25 years or thereabouts, right?
Well, it was a little bit different. I mean, this bike, the Curtis, is really kind of an informed. It's more focused on the audience. Before it was more focused on, I think, on us. So yeah, we were V-twin aficionados, and we came at it from from this uncompromised, let's just make the best motorcycles in the world, and we're doing the same thing now in electric. But with electric, what we also had going for us was 25 years of talking to clients about, they would call me and I would talk to them, and it's like, okay, well, what is it that you want your bike to be? And then when they would tell me, to be perfectly candid, I would realize, gee, you're like a lawyer on the deal team, a 500-man law firm. You're the top of the food chain. You make a lot of money, but you haven't ridden much. You haven't ridden in a long time. And I would realize right away that we're like making an F1 car, and you just want to cruise around the neighborhood with your wife.
Got it. So your company, did you start with motorcycles, traditional motorcycles, and now you're kind of doing these electric ones? Or did you have a different company that you were working on? I just want to get an idea of your background.
Curtis is the same company. So it's actually a almost 33-year-old company that has morphed and tried and learned and grown and gotten better and better and better. And now I think we're at the top of our creative game. So and we believe that and we're in this new thing, right? I mean, the electric road bike market is incredibly small. I can't find more than 150 million of business out there. So, but it's going to be $100 billion business. So it makes the investment community really cool. Probably like a lot of the entrepreneurs that would be going to crowdfund are, they're coming into something, a niche play, a small play. But what makes it so fascinating for the founder is of those of the other people that are crowdfunding is that it could be something that really grows rapidly.
Got it. And would you label yourself as an entrepreneur? Would you label yourself as an inventor? How would you identify?
Look, first, when I was 17, I had a small pool hall restaurant, worked my way through law school, had my law firm for 13 years, invested in a trucking company, other restaurant businesses, oil and gas. Then I got into this, and this was different for me. This was like, okay, I'm burning my boats, man. I don't even care about money anymore. Really, I just want to do this thing. I want to make the greatest American motorcycle. And now I think, the interesting thing now is, even though we're a tiny little company, I think we could be the number one American motorcycle maker because of the way the layout for electrification, the way this is going to play. So I see us a little bit, we don't have stranded assets that we have to deal with. We don't have we downloaded all of our IC stuff. We can be completely focused. We don't have HR. There's a huge negative space. While we do need to add people, and we are looking for the best people. So anyone that hears this, send in your application. If you think you've got something meaningful to add to this enterprise, bring it on.
So basically, it sounds like you've had success in a couple of different verticals, right? With trucking, oil and gas, law.
Yep.
So you've been successful in the different verticals, and now you're bringing that attention when it comes to electric motorcycles. So how did you find out about regulation crowdfunding or WeFunder? When did that enter the picture? Why did you decide to do this public raise?
Well, I mean, look, that's another passion of mine, and getting back to the idea of what you would call, radically open market, radically free enterprise. So nothing. I mean, I love the Dutch auction thing. I love openness. I love the idea of a transparent business, and I believe in the growth for the enterprise that comes from having like-minded true believers join in with a little bit of skin in the game, and what you can learn from them. And I we have like 750 partners in our, now from the crowdfund, and we've actually raised, I think it's about 1.8 million from the crowd. So total, and it's growing. I think we'll end up busting the $5 million cap before this goes away. And I'm telling you, the biggest asset is the energy. And the people are just wonderful. I can't emphasize enough for folks that are thinking about it, how beneficial it is. If I go in and invest $500 in your company, then what you've got is a vote of confidence.
Yeah. I mean, looking at your what people say here section, we have some people like Doug Rice, who says after researching the product, he loves the results. We got Jeffrey, who says that he wants to get the best motorcycle ever. Other people like Bryant Lee, who says he loves innovation in line with the future of where it's headed. You have a lot of people that are excited about the future, the technology you're doing, the design, it looks like, that are singing your praises here.
Look, I got to tell you that I don't know if it's luck or, there's the ancients wrote that firm persistence will be rewarded with universal harmony. And so I think for all of the folks that are going to go this route, I mean, burn the boats, it's got to be a gritty, hard, nobody ever, I mean, Musk said, that he was going bankrupt, and then at Christmas, everything was falling apart. He had to borrow money to stay going when it went at the point when it was really the roughest for him. And then he got the call from Mercedes and Toyota. They put in some money, and now he's got a car company that's worth 10 times more than the other ones. I think 7 or 8 times more than Toyota. Something he's obviously doing great. My point is that for our audience, they're going to be those. You're going to have that anxiety, but the anxiety is good too. I mean, it's all great. It all just makes your company stronger, better. Everything happens for the right reason, and you end up, where you should be in the long run. But the key is burn the boats, go in there, and take on the fight with the idea that, I tell you what, when the smoke clears, I'm going to win.
Yeah, super cool. And you have some great updates here and stuff that we can talk about in a bit. But one question I had for you, in raising this and being able to get people taking action, did you have any tips or advice as to how to encourage people to do that, whether on the marketing side or what you did to prepare for this? Did you have any thoughts you want to share on that point?
Yeah, just be super, like go into this kind of authenticity is the rule mode, and be entirely transparent, very, very honest about this would be the founder and his team. And you got to have a great team. I have a great, the young man that's helped me through all of this without him, I would have no chance. And then our main design guy who from all the inside out thinking, who invented this patent that we have, which is, we're certain that it's the best way to make a motorcycle for the future, which is electric. So some of it is luck, some of, and this is an attraction. These people they come because of the authenticity. I think there's a bit of a free spirit aspect, no one tells. I think the small entrepreneurial guy that's going to do this probably is, I'm not here to have control. I'm here to let go of control. I'm here to encourage the great ideas, to bring in the right people. And so it's a little bit of a yin thing in regard. But yeah, you have to be prepared. You need to be very much on top of the thing, but responding to everybody. But that's the fun part. I mean, the dialogue, there's what I'm saying is there's a treasure trove in that dialogue with these potential investors and the actual investors that commit, and they're looking at you with the passion you have, so you're joined. So it's kind of like like your partner informs you in a way that that makes you a better version of yourself, and these people are like multiple partners.
Yeah, 100%. Also, you have some great content on your Instagram. You're putting out content regularly there on those channels, on your YouTube as well. You have some great content. So you're definitely on all cylinders, promoting on social media, it sounds like, and really putting together some really incredible, beautiful photos and videos also.
Well, thank you.
If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillrite, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist, fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. One other question I had, just in listening to your story, it sounds like you've been able to navigate different verticals, and it sounds like you've also been able to build relationships very well in order to, build relationships with these investors and potential partners. Do you have any thoughts or any advice on how to do that effectively?
Just enjoy it. So, I mean, a lot of the investors I've done text messages, so they have my individual cell. I've not had any problem with any investor bothering me or being like, oh, I wish I hadn't have given so many people my cell phone. But I do get calls, and they always are fun. They're always beneficial. It's, they may be like, gee, I was hoping this or that. We are late, for instance, Salvador, where, we hit a few roadblocks in terms of predominantly on the supply chain side. Mm-hmm. And you just have to get out in front of those issues and tell your base, because we have a base of about 20,000 emails. And I'm sure that, and that, that's a good thing too with crowdfunding, is it will help the entrepreneur and the startup to gather emails from people that have a positive interest and tend to be a support structure for the new enterprise. So, mm-hmm. So the correspondence with these people is what I would say is it's very enlightening, it's very illuminating, it's very clarifying and optimizing for the company.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you've obviously, like I said, you've been doing this for a while now, and you're jumping, in different types of industries, and this one is obviously going really well for you. When did you know that this was like the right approach? When did you know that this was the right company to focus on, that doing electric motorcycles was definitely the future for you? Was there a moment in time where you're like, yes, all steam ahead? What really was that moment for you?
It was the catalyst of everything I had learned from our client base, the people the people that have bought our bikes in the past, and my significant relationship with many of them. And it was the resonance of all of those conversations together with one designer that I had worked with that was very, very professional with a great experience. And he talked to me a lot about his belief that the future was going to end up being electric because of the regulatory regime. And that happened before I had fully, my transition took time, Salvador. It isn't like he said it and I was like, oh, sure, that's a great idea. I mean, I was like, man, I hate electric. I didn't, at first I was like, dude, electric sucks. So I didn't get it. So I was a Neanderthal, a Stone Age guy. I was a Luddite, whatever you want to brand it. But I'm not a closed-minded person, and our team isn't closed-minded. So it took time. It took 18, 24 months of the souffle, cooking to perfection. And then one day it was time to take the souffle out, and it was beautiful. And it all made perfect sense that if we could execute against our previous knowledge, making these other bikes, transmuting that energy into electric, that we could end up with something that would be literally the best motorcycle ever made that happened to be electric, the best and finest rolling on two wheels ever that happens to be electric, and that would be something the world would take note of. And that's the journey we're on. And it's not complete yet, but I feel very confident that when we get to the end of this journey, it's going to be quite financially remunerative for our backers.
And in coming to this, going through, like you said, multiple evolutions with the company, and going back and forth over the electric, and then deciding to go all in electric, and some supply chain issues. What does it feel like now to wake up and to see that you've raised like $700K with this campaign? What does that feel like? What is the most rewarding aspect of that for you?
It just gives me so much confidence. Confidence is the most attractive thing about humanity is confidence. Nothing sells like confidence, and when other people say yes, I'm going to back your idea, it's self-evident that. Mm-hmm. But I'm really enjoying your podcast. I'm just meeting for the first time. I like everything about it so far. You seem to be very well informed, so that's great. My saying that to you would organically make, well, that's good to hear. So it's the same type of thing. If someone pitches in $500, and a lot of these people, $500 is a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's like, man, I could go get something that my wife really wants or whatever, but instead I'm going to give it to you, Salvador. Well, that would be like, wow, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and wife doesn't need another bag either.
That's right. There you go.
So I totally understand. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's like it gives you that confidence to move forward. Yep. You did talk about how you were already a company right before you really went down this road. What kind of sales, just like ballpark, is your company doing with like motorcycles beforehand? Like, what were your sales like, out of curiosity?
Our sales would be in the range of $4.5 million a year, and we could scratch a little bit of profit. The bikes were real expensive, so we were doing ICE with an average valuation over 100,000. The beauty of our business model now is kind of like where Harley was at in the 1980s. A lot of people don't know that in the 1980s, when Harley went public, they were like a penny stock, and then they blew up, and they went from borderline no value whatsoever to $6 billion. From 88 to like in 18 years to the highlight of their success was 2006. Mm-hmm. What they did, Salvador, is they appealed to many new riders. There was a time when the baby boomer in the late 80s was kind of breaking free. He was about 40. He was breaking away from his mom and dad. And he was making a little money, so that dentist, CPA, lawyer, doctor said, "I'm going to go get a Harley." Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It was a different thing that was going on. That was the rebel idea of the time. Now for the Curtis, what we've got is something that if you can ride a bicycle, you can ride the thing.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden,
it looks great too.
Yeah. Sure. Look, it's got to look good. The whole point of the luxury motorcycle business is driven by the aesthetic. Mm-hmm. It's got to ride like it looks, but first and foremost, it's got to look cool. I've got to be able to put you on the Curtis, and you got to say, hey, man, the feeling you're going to get is the same kind of feeling that if I made the perfect leather jacket, like in the picture I'm looking at, you got a cool looking jacket. I like the jacket.
Yeah, definitely.
The jacket, 100%. And you look cool. So the Curtis has to be like that cool image of you in that jacket. So when you kind of wear it, and remember, on a motorcycle, everyone can see you. It's not like I can get you.
It's all about the vibe. It's all about having that look, that feel, right? The way that it rides, 100%. Yes, for someone who's listening to this podcast, there's so many people out there that have great ideas, but they don't take action, or they have incredible ideas, but they don't know how to turn it into reality. And, we're listening to someone who's been able to grow a company to 45 million a year, selling products. What do you think is the big thing that holds other people back from achieving that kind of an outcome? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I do, because I think that just Salvador runs to the difference in the way people are. I think I've had many great relationships with people that would have ideas, and then the ideas wouldn't percolate. They would never make that final step. I think it's the difference between what I call entrepreneurship. It's not me saying this. It's the two words, entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship. So the key is for the person to understand which one am I. So an entrepreneur is not ever going to burn his or her boats. An entrepreneur must. And it really depends on just who, so the people that are going to go for it, they are going to say, I'm going to go to the death. This is it. If I fail at this, I'd rather die than fail. I mean, the entrepreneurship is just as needed. Mm-hmm. But typically, like I think that I'm surrounded. I mean, some of the people working with me might one day leave and open their own business. One of them is an entrepreneur, is a fellow entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, the people that I've worked with are entrepreneurs. Their comfort zone is not in opening and going full in and maxing out all their credit cards and putting themselves in harm's way to do a business. That's just not their nature. Mm-hmm. But they have all of this creative energy, and their best thing is to go find the entrepreneur that will do it and join that team. So I don't think it's like, I wouldn't want to push someone who's more entrepreneurial into going out and crowdfunding and opening a business, because opening a business, I've always thought, is a little bit like, like if somebody did something to you that was just absolutely horrible, and you needed to confront them, and then you're like, well, if I get into a confrontation with this guy, in the fists start flying or whatever, I could get killed. Mm-hmm. If he wins, so better to run than to get killed, maybe, or what I'm trying to say is, if you go down that road, you gotta say, I'm gonna win.
Yeah, you got to be all in. You got to own what's important to you, and you definitely got to be willing to push through difficult times.
The whole analog for the burning of the boats is, when you burn your boats, it's like, okay, that the whole point is not I'm going to die on this hill. The whole point is now I know I'm not going to die because I got no choice. I have to win.
100%. So these are a lot of great advice and tips. And I do have one or two more questions, but before we get into that, where can people go to learn more about your campaign, about your company? Where can they go to learn more about this?
CurtisMotorcycles.com. Curtis, right now we're over on the WeFunder website. Curtis, if you just Google Curtis and WeFunder, it'll pop up.
Got it. So a couple of questions here. First one is definitely on more of the campaign, then I have a couple more on the entrepreneurship side. So first one is, if you really get this right, and just between you and me, if you really get this right, what is this worth? Like the market size, the potential here. If you're able to execute on this vision, what is it going to be worth, do you think? Or do you have any thoughts on that?
It's so crazy. Sky's the limit. Curtis invented naval aviation, so we use that kind of trite, sky's the limit thing, because we think it's a little bit contextual. But I mean, the Harley Davidson electric motorcycle company, they delivered 33 bikes last quarter, and they're carrying a $2+ billion valuation. And so our plan is to list our stock on NASDAQ in 25, Salvador. And at that point, I mean, we should be, we'll be the other listed American motorcycle stock. And we feel, that at the time, it's a little bit of an iPhone moment. I mean, when you had the button phone, and Apple came out with the phone you could surf the internet on. I mean, it changed everything. The move to electrification changes everything. The winner is going to be the company that has the best and finest product. In other words, it's what can't be measured in numbers right now. So the fact that Harley Davidson may have bigger factories and a lot more management and all that stuff is really a drag on the ability to make the enlightened version of the product for the future. Our bet is that we've done that, and that makes us the leader. We're going to start really small. We're only going to build 40 motorcycles next year. But interestingly, we will make profit on those 40 motorcycles. So it's 40, 90, and then only 225 in phase one. Mm-hmm. But there's a phase two that'll be 10x on those numbers, and then there's a phase three that'll be another 10x. So long term, our goal is to be the leader. I mean, we want to be the leader. We want to be Curtis to be the number one motorcycle brand of the future.
Got it. Very cool. Very cool. So my first question is, if you could go back in time and you could talk to yourself before you start this whole equity crowdfunding process and raising capital online, is there any final tidbit or bit of advice you would have given yourself to have a more powerful impact, or anything you would have done differently?
Oh God, there's so many things that, we made, the number of mistakes that I made are there are a lot. There are many. I mean, we started believing that we could use that we could buy in industry tech. So we started by using a company that was out there already. We used their tech, and we built a motorcycle around their technology, and that wasn't an honest Curtis motorcycle. So then we had to stop, circle back, and reinvent the whole system, which now is entirely Rolls-Royce, level Curtis, the standard of Curtis, the Curtis of motorcycles. The gentleman that, I tried to do this with my younger designer. I ended up going back to get a gentleman that designed with me before. I should have done that before I launched on the first crowdfund campaign. So what I did is, amidst the first crowdfund, Salvador, I changed designers, which was the right thing to do. But from the audience perspective, it looked like, oh, okay, so you didn't get it totally right. But the Eisenhower said, plans are worthless, planning is essential. I think I try not to. I mean, I do beat up my own past mistake. I think it's important for every entrepreneur to be aware of his past mistakes, so he doesn't make them anymore in the future. I also think that when you're reinventing stuff, they're going to changes is in the air. You lay out a plan and you go for it, and then things happen, and then you have to adjust.
Yeah, definitely. You got to adjust. You got to have flexibility. Your first campaign, how much did you raise with your first campaign?
The whole crowdfunding campaign, the first and then the second one that we're on now, and again, I think we're going to get, we're only at 700, but I think we'll get to the 4.5. But and then the first one was capped at $1 million. I think we could have done well over that. And then we've raised another, 3 or 4 million that was augmented by the crowdfund. So one thing about the crowdfund is it also can help, you get the word out. So it's a great way for young companies to build an audience, to gain access to awareness, which is so critical to any venture.
Awesome. My final question for you, and we can end on this note. I know you are a man of quotes, so maybe you'd like this one. We can either end on a final quote that you'd like, or a word of encouragement for other people out there, other founders that are looking to raise capital or looking to start and grow their companies, or just a final tip, anything along those lines, and we can end on that note.
Yeah, I just, I think, look, this is a 2.0 world. This whole crowdfunding space, 1.0 meaning, static and linear and in the grid. So I would want your audience to be cautious about, even though this crowdfunding is a new space, be aware that there are these companies, some of whom we've used that were less than satisfactory, that kind of have everything on that grid, that are playing the 1.0 game. This is a non-linear, fluid, dynamic zone. This is 2.0. So when you go to the crowdfund, you open your new business, you're 2.0. And I think that thanks for, I do love quotes, but my favorite is and it applies, make your business, may your business exist so freely that its very existence is an act of rebellion, which is a takeaway from the great Albert Camus.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really appreciate it. And good luck with your remaining days here. Looking forward to seeing your progress.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. I hope you got a ton of value out of today's podcast, some nuggets of gold when it comes to moving your life forward, allowing you to drive more funding to your campaign, and of course, launching new businesses and new products into the world so you can have an incredible impact and ethically dominate your niche or your industry. Now, sometimes when we're thinking about doing something massive or something that's really meaningful or important to us, our own head can kind of get in the way. This to me actually happened back in the day when I was in New York City. So I was living in New York City for about 6 years in Brooklyn. And ever since I was in New York City, I always wanted to get a tattoo. But guess what? I was way too scared. I was scared of the pain. I was scared of what would people think. It was one of those things where it was such a thing that I built up in my mind that I wanted to do that it was almost paralyzing. And I was never really taking some real steps towards that goal. And eventually it got to the point where I was like, you know what? At some point in time, you gotta make a decision. And I finally made the decision to get my first tattoo. So it's a really cool tattoo. It's actually using a dot and line work style. It's an octopus on my left arm. It took around 6 hours to get this tattoo in one session. It hurt a heck of a lot, but I can't tell you the next week, the next months, when I would look down at my arm and I would see that tattoo, it was a symbol that sometimes things are just built up in your head. And if you really want something, you gotta go after it. You gotta pull the trigger. You gotta take action. Even if there is pain involved, or even if there are decisions involved, you gotta be willing to move it forward. If that's something that you feel like you struggle with, you have a big goal, you have something that you want to achieve, you have something that you want to have, be a result or actually turn into reality, but there's something that's holding you back. Maybe it's not knowing the road ahead. Maybe it's it's difficult to assemble the pieces of the puzzle. Or maybe even you're just unsure of which platform to use or which technique or strategy to employ for your specific product or category. This is exactly why I make myself available to folks just like you with my individual one-on-one coaching calls. Consider these a gift from above. My gosh, my email inbox is just like blowing, it's like overfilled, but I love to make myself available to students with individual one-on-one coaching calls. If you are interested in learning more about this and also booking your individual one-on-one coaching call with me, you got to fill out a little bit of information first. Tell me what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to accomplish. Tell me more about what you're trying to do, and I will be able to take these 8+ years of experience in my head, this incredible library when it comes to crowdfunding, pull out the slender volumes that are most relevant to you and share that with you in an intensive coaching call so you can walk away from that feeling confident, assured, know exactly what you got to do to be successful, introduce you to other tools that you might not know about, people in the industry, or even ways which I can help you going forward. If that sounds interesting, go and check this out at crowdcrux.com/coaching. Again, that link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. Crowdcrux.com/coaching will take you there, and you can get that call scheduled ASAP. Thank you so much for listening to this show. Give me a positive rating and review if you did enjoy this on iTunes. It means a lot to me, and also a lot of the other members of the team that are working to produce this for you every single week. That being said, we got a killer episode next week, so make sure you tune in. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.